A wonderful morning. Always excited to talk to you guys. Actually, I always feel honored to talk to you and just challenge you with things of the Lord, challenge you with authentic manhood, challenge you with solid recovery, challenge you with helping you reframe your thinking after you've been messed up by a porn or sexual addiction. And so I'm excited today to continue in that journey of helping you become the man God wants you to be. Last week we talked about the power of faithfulness, and I gave you a target on the horizon of where God wants you to go. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up the window and explain to you what an addiction to pornography does to a man. I have spoke countless times to groups of young people. The largest event was I spoke in the Maritimes to 1,600 young people, and I talked about sexuality and the problems with pornography and everything. And so this is I warn young men and young women to some extent to understand this, but I warn young men about the dangers of pornography. And now I'm looking back for you and saying, let me give you the ugly truth about porn's effect on you. I want to give you the ugly truth about what it has done to you that you likely aren't even aware. And I want you to, as I look at these 13 different things that pornography does to a man, I wanted you to think through, okay, well, yeah, that one's true of me. Yeah, that one's true of me. Or no, that one's not me. Go ahead, try to track with me to see how much it has affected you and to see the journey you have to get to move beyond it. So the ugly truth about porn's effect on you. Number one, porn kills love. Porn is about getting. Real love is about giving. So porn is the opposite of real love. Real love is about romance. It's about a trust relationship. And a date, the woman you date is designed to be a friend, not a conquest. She's designed to be a life partner, not an object or a toy. But porn kills love. And it's almost like this season is the season of shirts. So I'm going to illustrate here. See? Yeah, when I speak to young people, this is the shirt that I wear because porn kills love. And if you want to have a healthy love relationship moving forward, you got to stay away from porn because it 100% kills the notion of love and connection and companionship, because you've experienced, any of you that are married, the kind of pain and the kind of hurt that goes on in your wife's heart and life because of your choices related to the addiction. So porn kills love. Number two, porn erodes values. The more a person looks at porn, the more their morals decline, their ethics shift. A once scandalous, shameful act starts to get more and more normal. We start to lie to ourselves that this isn't that bad. It's really not hurting anybody. And so what happens, and as the tolerance grows, more, we look at it more often, we look at more raunchier stuff. As tolerance grows, as we embrace porn more, we get more and more callous to what it's doing to us. You get used to it. It's no big deal. It's not that big a deal. Matter of fact, wonderful lines like, look at, all my buddies look at it, or it's not hurting you. I'm not hurting you. It's not affecting us, and all these kind of lies to the self. But here's what happens. Constant visualization, looking at the porn, creates normalization. This becomes the norm. And so, yeah, if you look at something long enough, what happens is that becomes normal to you. That becomes how it is. And so repeated exposure to pornography weakens your moral fiber, and it actually, what used to be something that you believed was wrong becomes less and less wrong over time, because it's part of your pattern, and your constant visualization creates a normalization of this activity for you. So it erodes your values. Thirdly, porn caters to me. Now hear me, porn caters to me. It feeds my need for instant gratification, instant sex, instant release, instant turn on. It's all about me. Solo sex is self-centered, only about my needs, on my schedule, on my timing. It's like sex on demand, because all of the pleasure center buttons are being pressed when there's the PMO cycle, PMO, porn, masturbation, orgasm. When that cycle goes on, the visualization that you're doing, to the brain, it's as real as if the person is right there. And you can say, well, it's not, it's just fantasy, but to the brain, it's real. And it's feeding that pleasure center. And it is really one-dimensional and horrendously self-centered. It's all about me, my desire, my demand, my time, my release. And so what happens is you become a master of self-pleasing. Solo sex is one-dimensional sex. God-honoring marital sex is two people being a team. And you can't go from being a self-centered individual player to being a team. You actually just want to put her into your box. Porn doesn't make you good at closeness. It doesn't make you good at intimacy. And that's what's required in a marriage. Porn makes you good at meeting your needs alone. So porn caters to me and that selfishness. Number 4, porn neuters you when you're young. Neuter. I remember the first time I heard the word neuter when our family dog, when I was growing up, was, a little male Cocker Spaniel, and we're going to get him neutered. What's neutered, Dad? Well, neutered means that he's going to be calmer. Oh, okay. Well, what do they do to make him calmer? Well, they neuter him. Well, what does that mean, Dad? Well, it means that he won't be running around the neighborhood. You see how he's trying to explain away neuter, because he doesn't want to say, we don't want the dog to be getting his jollies with all the neighborhood dogs and creating havoc. And so we're going to neuter this dog. Well, here's what happens to porn. And listen, this is not just me being a crazy old man. This is well-researched. Matter of fact, there's at least 2 secular sites that are challenging young men in their 20s to, as soon as you can, get off porn, because it's wrecking your sexual life, your real sexual life with real people. The more you're into porn, the more you're going to be neutered. Now, neutered basically means you start having erectile dysfunction. That means you can't get it on. That means you can't maintain an erection with a real person. And you won't like this, but the brain gets so warped to respond only to porn that you're actually unable to really enjoy a real person's sexual intimacy later. It's like you get castrated by porn. It doesn't function. Matter of fact, listen, 60% of porn addicts struggle with erectile dysfunction. That means out of 40 men here, there's about 24 of you that have struggled with erectile dysfunction in some way, and you don't perform that well. But it also could be in the form of delayed ejaculation, or it could be premature ejaculation, all kinds of problems related to what porn has done. And so, matter of fact, right here in my office, Time magazine was all about porn about 5 years ago. And why? This is the byline. why young men who grew up with internet porn are becoming advocates for turning it off. Time magazine has an article on why you should stop looking at porn. Now, if you know Time magazine, it's a very liberal magazine. So why would a liberal magazine have the #1 article of that month on porn and telling you that why those who grew up on internet porn are advocating, please get off it. It's wrecking your life. Here's the reason. It messes up your future sex life. Let's go to number 5. Porn distorts young women. See, what happens is girls start to listen and they hear that, you know, a lot of guys are looking at porn. So they start looking at porn to see what guys are looking at. And what happens is they watch porn and they start to think, well, I guess this is what sex is. And so women are feeling like they need to become some kind of sex machine to get a guy. Sex gets attention, but they're not feeling loved. They're not feeling cared for. They're not being pursued as a person. They're being pursued for the body. They're being pursued for the sexual opportunistic way that the young man has been weaned because of pornography. They long for love. They long for respect. They long to be cherished, and they're getting so disillusioned. But more and more young women are getting addicted to porn because of the same PMO cycle, and it's messing them up. Young girls are feeling, well, they better watch porn because guys like this, and so they're gonna learn know-how, and it's denying their core needs, denying their needs to be loved and cherished. And it is, matter of fact, the internet is the worst place to learn about sexual intimacy if you're looking at things like porn and all. It's really, really problematic. And so many young girls, matter of fact, I was featured on a documentary called Selfless. And in that, I was one of the expert voices. And in this documentary called Selfless, it was basically talking fully about why, especially young women, should do selfies less. Selfless, do selfies less. And it was talking about the dangers of getting your self-worth on how many likes you get on your TikTok account or on your Facebook account or on Snapchat or whatever, how many likes or approvals you get, how many comments you get. And here's what they've been discovering, that young girls who are so addicted to getting affirmation this way because they're not getting it at home, they're actually, well, what do you think of this picture? And they got some sexy look, you know, with the duck lips or whatever, right? And then they don't get enough likes. And so they actually drop the camera and start trying to look sexy with more of them until finally they're doing topless ones. If they don't get enough likes, they're actually doing full nudes to try to get enough people to like them. It is unbelievable. And of course, about every 6 months, a new social media platform comes out because parents catch on the dangers of the last one. And right now, you know, I think TikTok's one of the latest, but I'll tell you what, if you just, the general feed of TikTok is just appalling with all the sexual overloads that are there. But this is how porn is distorting young women as they're going there to seek to understand what guys are looking at, and they're getting messed up as well. This is a very interesting one. Porn actually dumbs you down. Dumbs you down. Now, if you pride yourself at being an intelligent man, you likely don't want to embrace the impact of what porn does. Ongoing porn fixation limits cerebral activity and growth. I'm going to quote Dr. Donald Hilton, neurosurgeon of the University of Texas Medical School. I heard him live at a conference for those of us who are trying to help men through the problem of sexual addiction. Research already shows that porn is known to actually shrink the brain. And he's got verifiable evidence that ongoing porn use shrinks the brain. It causes brain atrophy. It slows the brain down. Decreased frontal lobe connectivity. It slows the brain down. The more hours viewing porn, the more negative changes on the brain. It slows the brain down. And one of the reasons behind erectile dysfunction, where 6 out of 10 men experience ED with the real woman partners in their life, is because of a brain malfunction, and it slows the brain down. And so you got to understand that it is impacting your ability to think creatively, to respond in a healthy way. It is literally, they measure size of brain, and it is shrinking the brain and limiting the capacity to think creatively. Dr. Donald Hilton, neurosurgeon, University of Texas Medical School, and I heard him live. Number 7, porn robs innocence. The magic of marital intimacy gets tarnished. Nothing is left to your imagination. The fun of being unique and creative, and I've just done this with you. Are you kidding me? With porn, you've seen everything and experienced everything. And remember, to your brain, this experience is real as this space I'm in right now. It's as real as this phone call. It's real as me touching my chest. To the brain, looking at porn is that real. And so what happens is, because you've experienced so much, you've lost your innocence. You've lost your ability to be creative because you've seen so much. There's no room to be creative. There's no room to be unique. There's nothing left for you and your wife because you've experienced everything in the porn world. And of course, some young men move their sexual selfishness into real person relationships, and they become users at 14, 15, 16. One man I worked with out of Manitoba, I said, well, just give me a rough idea of how many women you think you've been with before his wife. And he had complete erectile dysfunction. I'm helping them, 7 years married, expecting their first kid. And he hates sex. He doesn't want to be intimate with his wife. It's usually a failure experience. And not only did he have a huge porn addiction in the past, but he went and acted outside the marriage with multiple partners. And he said, I couldn't tell you. He says, sometimes I was high on drugs. So who knows? I said, well, are you talking 20 men or women? Are you talking 30 women? He says, it's got to be in the hundreds. But he says, I honestly would have no idea. Well, do you see how the distortion is taking place and the robbing of innocence? And nothing will be new to you and your spouse because you'll have seen most everything possible on the internet. It's all been seen. It's been there, done that with all the porn partners that are there. Number 8, porn breeds comparison. Seeing countless naked women engaging in countless sexual experiences sets you up for a lifetime of sexual evaluation with your spouse. All the people of your fantasy world are competing for the moment. I was praying with a young man in his early 20s to deal with the sexual addiction, and I'd been helping him. He's from the U.S. I've been helping him, and because he's a long time, his dad and I are longtime friends, I actually went down to their community, and we had his accountability partner, his father, and me praying through with him. And this is God working. I'm not anything profound, guys, but in the middle of this prayer time to try to really put this all behind him. And he'd done a lot of work, he'd been in Doug Weiss intensive and all. And we're praying this through. And I said to him, I said, there's one specific porn star that you're drawn to, isn't there? He got this look. I just had this sense that God said he is actually addicted to this one person. And I said, name her name. He could name her name because this is the woman that he was drawn to most. And so what happens is, as he's moved towards getting married and all, every person he's dating is compared to this one woman that became his fantasy woman. And oh, here's one real sad story, and it ends up really bad, guys. And remember, you never want to have an argument with me about things, because I've been doing this 45 years. I got more stories you can dream. But a young couple came to me because of the brokenness in their marriage. And she was just feeling so belittled. And it was clear that he had a sexual addiction. But he actually had, in their home, in the hallway, he had a picture of a Dallas cheerleader poster and in her usual skimpy outfit. And he actually would say things, he says, like this here, like, you got to do some work here. You're starting to get a little too thick here. He would compare his wife to the actual poster in the hallway. And when I talked to him, well, I don't understand the problem. I mean, she's got a little work to do. She can improve herself. She really tells me she'll improve herself. She ended up saying, I can't stay with him. And not only did they divorce, but about 2 years later, he ended up taking his life. But porn created a comparison. Some years ago, I was speaking in Southern Alberta. The young couple was a year and a half married, wonderful young couple. And I was speaking at this youth conference, and they were kind of youth leaders. And they said, I think we need to talk to you. I said, great. So I talked to them a bit alone. Then I talked, sorry, just the two of them. And then I talked one-on-one. And I will never forget this young man saying this to me. His porn addiction was just horrendously high. And she was so broken by having to compete as a young, beautiful bride. I mean, if she walked by the 40 of us here, it wasn't like she's struggling. She's a pretty lady. But he said this, honestly, our sex life is boring. I just go back to my default drive. I just like it a lot better, but just porn. Porn breeds comparison. It's the easy fix. Number 9, porn highly stimulates. And which of these are true of you guys? That's what you got to be thinking, because this is what porn does over time. But porn highly stimulates. What do you mean, Currie? Well, the highly over-sensualized and dramatized sex scenes flood the sexual arousal center in your brain far beyond what real intimacy was ever designed to do and consistently deliver. If you understand RPMs in a car, revolution per minute in a car, and you understand the term red line, which means in your, well, come on. Not the speedometer, but your revolutions per minute. Yeah, odometer. Okay, so what happens is red line says don't have your engine revved past 7,000, usually in there, 6,000, depending on the car. Don't red line past this for very long, or else you'll blow the engine. So, you know, it's kind of, the engine's going, woo! Be careful on running it like that too long, because you'll blow the engine. What happens is porn is redlining plus all the time. It's just going. It overstimulates. It's like just pedal to the metal, completely garish, self-centered, all about me. Woo! And then we go to get married, and sex in marriage is a team thing. It's two people learning together. It's me learning how to love and give love. And what happens is you got to understand tolerance. Just like with drugs, if I start looking at this type of sex, and after a while, it doesn't bring much of a hit anymore. So then I start looking at this type of sex. And after a while, I grow tolerant to that. So then I have to go to this type of sex until I keep getting more complicated in my sexual viewing. I have men who've told me, Currie, I can't believe what I've been looking at lately. It's just so bad. But they kind of woke up, but it just finally more and more because they develop tolerance. You're driven towards harder stuff to get the same buzz. Virtual reality porn, looking at a screen, porn, it'll make you awesome at two-dimensional sex. but it will not make you great at three-dimensional sex. Real people. It actually hyperstimulates, and then it just feels like the young man said in Southern Alberta, like, I just rather go to porn. It's way better. Well, it's not way better. It's what he's got used to because it's hyperstimulated him. Number 10, and we're 10 to 13, we're almost done here, but this is ongoing effect that porn does to a man when they surrender to it. Porn dehumanizes people. We often use the word objectify. It displays a harsh, degrading, and offensive version of sex that is fully dysfunctional in a three-dimensional, God-honoring marriage. What happens is partners, especially on the screen, aren't people, but are humiliated, violated, and abused. And so brought into the bedroom of a home, there's pressure. There's I want this, I need this. There's why can't we do that? And these are all being fed from a porn background, but it dehumanizes people. The longer into porn you are, the rougher and more raw it gets. There's a rape myth out there, and it's strong, that girls really want it. So when they're saying no, part of the thrill is we push through the limits because that's where this goes. Matter of fact, if you know anything about porn, you know that they have extreme porn that's often defined as gonzo porn, Gonzo, gonzo. Why? Because it's gone so far, it's gonzo. And it actually includes the raping and the murdering of women. Obviously, it's not mainstream porn, and it's hugely illegal because you're murdering somebody. But you understand the huge dehumanization of people with the myth culture that it's okay and that, no, listen, this is when they say that they really want it. This is just a lie, and harshness grows with deepening addiction. It dehumanizes people. Number 11, porn warps your expectations. Unrealistic and unfair anticipations are formed. The young man that grows up looking at porn and gets married, porn drives the agenda of variation in marital intimacy, creating extreme, unhealthy pressure and obligation. Just check this little comparison. Here's the wife. The wife has only been involved a little bit with her fiance sexually, no one else. Saw porn once at a girlfriend's place and thought it was gross and didn't look at it again. So she's wonderfully inexperienced going into marriage. Her fiance, the guy, he's been looking at porn. He's 24. He's been looking at porn since 13. So he's got 11 years of porn. Likely someplace between 13,000 and 15,000 different viewings of porn, usually accompanied with masturbation. And he's seen so much. He's seen everything. She comes in as a novice or even a beginner. He comes in having experienced so much. So he comes in, his expectations are up here, and she comes in here as this beautiful, innocent novice, and she's really concerned and confused by all the things that he's demanding and wanting. And you tell me that that's not because of a sexual addiction? God's plan is that two people would come together in marriage as beginners and novices and held some hands and done some kissing here or there and shouldn't have gone even to some of the touching, but they went to marriage as sexual virgins. And what happens is they grow together. They learn together. No one's telling them what's creative. They have complete freedom to be innocently creative and try things with no one telling him, oh, do this, do this, do this, or an addiction driving that. So it warps expectations. And so many times as I help couples through that, and I hear the stories of the things he's expecting, I'm saying, look, you're going to have to take some time to cleanse yourself from all these expectations, demands that all these years of looking at porn have done to you. You need to kind of flush the system out and start again and ask God to create an innocence there. And it doesn't mean that some of the variation that we see in pornography is not appropriate in marriage, but it's only appropriate as the two individuals in the marriage, husband and wife, agree on it without pressure. And you know, the idea being, well, where did you get that idea? Well, of course, where he got that idea. Every idea he's got is something he's seen. And the wife has said many times, I just don't want to be an extension of your on-life fantasy. I don't want to be an extension of your porn addiction. And what happens is many men use their spouse as merely a receptacle of their sexual energy that was derivative of the porn. And guys don't realize how much porn has messed them up by warping their expectations. Number 12, porn crushes you emotionally. A private sex life of porn is usually shrouded in shame, in secrecy, in guilt, and it increases aloneness, because as men get into porn at 16, 18, 20, they're not opening up and talking about it. They're not necessarily proud of it, as it were. It's kind of a secret thing. It's their own private life. And they move away from others, and they move away from God, frankly. And so it crushes you emotionally with the guilt, the shame, the embarrassment, the sense of being helpless, that you're trapped, you're knowing that you're addicted. I've had a 15-year-old who had come to me because actually the father and the son came together because the son had a good friend killed in a car accident, another good friend take their life. And in a short period of time, at 15, he was feeling really discouraged, and he was feeling, well, you know, some romantic notion of, well, maybe I should die and be with my friends. These are my good friends, but they're both gone now. And he was all messed up. So I helped him through the depression and anxiety he had over losing these friends. The father wonderfully was there with his son the whole time in the session, just sitting quietly. About 3 weeks after we were done those 4 or 5 sessions, the dad called back and said, hey, would you be willing to see my son and I again? I said, sure, what's up? And he said, well, I'll let him tell you. 15 and a half. And he said, Dr. Dave, he said, you helped me so much with just my depression over losing my friends. I just thought I'd get some help on my porn addiction. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I've been addicted to porn for about 3 years. I just told my dad, and he said, well, we need to get some help, son. And this dad, I mean, he is a rock star dad, because he didn't shame his son. He stood with his son. And it was so awesome. But you see how it crushes him emotionally. There's lies, there's hiding, there's fear of being discovered. You isolate from others. You don't get more emotionally intuitive. You get more emotionally selfish. You don't get close to people. You pull away from people. And spiritually, you're fully distant to God. And you have in your mind, well, this is unpardonable. God can't forgive me. You know, he'll never, I can never get my life on track with God. And so it crushes you emotionally. And finally, number 13, porn clearly violates God's plan. It's clearly outside God's design for relationship and separates us from him. Porn messes up people long term, and it takes a long time to undo the mess. God has a better idea. God has a better idea. Let me close with this illustration. I built a house back in the 80s in Saskatchewan, and I literally did 90% of the house, the sweat equity. I could afford more time than money. So I did, you know, virtually every part, didn't do any of the plumbing, but you get it. I did 80% of even the electrical, and on and on and on. Did all the heating duct work, and I didn't install the furnace, but I did all it, getting it ready. And I tell you this story because in my family room, I designed a fireplace to be in there. One of those, you know, ones, heatilator, that you could blow heat into the room. And of course you could have this wood burning fireplace. It's beautiful. Nice hearth I built, nice stone around it. It really looked good in the family room, and it really functioned well. You could turn on the fan and it would heat that air and suck in at the bottom and blow it out at the top warm. And of course, in the cold prairies in -40, this was a wonderful place to be in the house. We had, you know, forced air heating as well, but this was just so the fire in the fireplace, warmth, light, you know, beautiful heat, an ambiance, a comfort, This is where everybody wanted to come because it was so cozy. When I built the hearth, you're required by law to have a 16-inch hearth. That means where the fireplace ends and where the hearth ends, it had to be 16 inches of something that was fire retardant, like tile or whatever, or stone, so that if a log fell out of the fireplace, it wouldn't start a fire. You just, oh my goodness, then you put it back in or whatever, or something crackled and sparked. It'd have 16 inches of non-flammable, and I had a tile there. But 16 and a half inches, if a log or a ember popped out and it went 16 and a half inches, that same beautiful fireplace that brought warmth and heat and ambiance and great atmosphere, and everybody's drawn to the cozy feeling, that same fireplace burns, kills, destroys, wrecks everything 16 and a half inches outside of the fireplace. The same fireplace could kill my family. Thus, keep the screen closed, keep the glass closed. Once the fire's going, the hearth is there, 16 inches, non-flammable material. So if something pops or rolls out, you're not going to start a fire. Interesting. Fire in its place is beautiful. Fire under control is amazing. Light, warmth, ambiance, cozy. Fire out of the place that it's supposed to be destroys, maims, kills, and costs. God's plan was to keep sex within marriage, that it was two people uniquely. We got a ways to go, but porn has trashed a lot of men. And there are 13 of the obvious reasons that I've discovered in my work with men, all embraced under this one here: porn kills love. Let's talk about it.